Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about what may be the ultimate version for Pokémon Legends Z-A on Nintendo Switch 2. Apparently, this may be happening according to the Teraleaker who has returned. And so this info, along with other details about the game, have gone out there, and I find them interesting, so that's what we're getting into today. But before going forward, let me take this moment to point out that I am aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers by the time the Nintendo Switch 2 does come out, so if you do find yourself enjoying my content, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit that notification bell. So apparently, the Teraleaker, the Game Freak hacker as coined here by Central Leaks, has come back and they've been saying different things about Pokémon Legends Z-A. And so I initially saw this post here, but here is the entire thing on Discord. And here it is said, but unlike what we said earlier, we recently found a proof that while there is not a single build for it, Ikaku, this is the codename for Pokémon Legends Z-A, might get a Switch 2 version. Take with a big grain of salt, but while sorting some of the Gen 10 stuff outside of the usual Ikaku folders, we could see something named exactly like the Gaia Ounce related repositories. For those that don't know, Ounce is the codename for Nintendo Switch 2. Moving on, but for the Ikaku named Super for both, so Super Ikaku and Super Gaia. That entire line of text may be a little bit hard to follow. It is clear that this English is not the main language for this person, but basically what they're talking about here is that they have seen that there is a version of Pokémon Legends Z-A that has the codename of Super Ikaku, similar to Super Gaia, Gaia being the codename for Generation 10 of Pokemon, presumably to come out next year in 2026, and the Super part suggests that it's related to codename Ounce, which is Nintendo Switch 2, meaning that apparently they are now finding evidence that there is also a Switch 2 version for Pokémon Legends Z-A. And so if this is actually the case, and I should point out that we don't know for sure 100% that it will be, because even if there's some evidence now, that doesn't mean it's going to come to fruition. But now that we are finding some evidence, that improves my optimism here that it could happen. And so if it is happening, what does this mean for Pokémon Legends Z-A on Switch 2? Well, the Switch 2 is going to be a vastly more powerful console. From what we understand of the Switch 2, loading will be dramatically quicker. And so if this is the case, I would expect that Legends Z-A might take advantage of this, and we'll see some very quick loading here, maybe so fast that we don't even see a loading screen. That would be greatly appreciated. But beyond that, I would also expect a higher resolution. Now, there may be a lot of trolls out there suggesting that 4K just isn't possible, but the fact of the matter is, from what we understand of the Switch 2, 4K will likely be a possibility, but it will be on a case-by-case basis. Nintendo and Nvidia are working on some form of DLSS, Deep Learning Super Sampling, in other words, AI upscaling, and so because of that, some Switch 2 games may be able to run at 4K when docked. Does that mean Legends Z-A will have a 4K version? Hard to say, but I do think expecting a resolution above 1080p in docked mode will be a reasonable expectation if there is a Switch 2 version for this game. Now, is this going to mean a dramatic improvement? No, it's just going to be at a higher resolution, but that is going to help a little bit. It is going to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit sharper, and that's going to make for a noticeable difference. Now, beyond that, maybe we could see some frame rate improvements. Seeing a 60 FPS version would be nice, but at this point I'm starting to grow skeptical if Game Freak would push things that far. It's not like Game Freak has a reputation of putting together the most visually impressive and technically impressive games. It's usually on the opposite end of things, especially after Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, it does seem like they're trying to right the ship a little bit here because they did not put out a game in 2024. It looks like they are taking some more time here, and I am optimistic that Game Freak is going to turn things around, in part because they probably need to, because they are kind of ruining the brand of Pokemon by putting out these poor quality efforts here. From a technical perspective, the games are still good, they just had a lot of issues. And so yes, I think Legends Z-A is going to be an improvement over prior Pokemon games from a technical perspective. And so coming back to this idea of seeing improvements on Switch 2, I would like to see a higher frame rate. However, I think what's most important is to make sure that the base version on Switch 1 is running well. So if there's a poor frame rate on Switch 1 and it ends up being a good frame rate on Switch 2, I don't think that would be a good scenario. I think that would send a bad message. But if Legends Z-A can hit a rock solid 30 frames per second on Switch 1, and they also improve to a 60 frames per second on Switch 2, that would be an ideal scenario. Is it possible? Absolutely. Should we expect Game Freak to do so? That's a whole other discussion. And so personally, my expectation here, if we do end up getting this enhanced version for Legends Z-A, is faster loading and a higher resolution, and maybe an improved frame rate. Beyond that, I'm not really expecting any other improvements. Maybe they clean up the textures, maybe they improve the lighting and other elements. They can do these things, but will they? I'm really not expecting it. The direction I'm more so leaning in is that there are going to be some select Switch 1 titles that will see an improvement on Switch 2 through some sort of patch. And so thanks to backwards compatibility, you will be able to take essentially almost every single Switch 1 game and play it on your Switch 2. But some of these games, likely the more popular ones like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Smash Ultimate, maybe Pokémon Legends Z-A, will have an enhanced version that you can download. And so these games will look and run a little bit better on Switch 2, and that's my personal expectation. Will there be some other games that will have a totally separate release for Switch 2 that will have even bigger improvements? I think so. I'm expecting at least one. That's Metroid Prime 4. There are rumors of a Breath of the Wild remaster, but I'm sort of thinking that those rumors might just be tying into this idea of some Switch 1 games having an enhancement. And I do think it makes sense that Legends Z-A is also one of them. I do think this feeds into the idea that both Legends Z-A and Metroid Prime 4 will be tied into the Switch 2 marketing in some way. Prime 4 I think will have bigger, more substantial enhancements, but Legends Z-A even having some, and Nintendo being able to feature Legends Z-A in the marketing for Switch 2, I think is going to make for a big deal. And I also find it interesting that the big Switch 2 reveal is going to happen in the beginning of April. In other words, after the end of February, where we're assuming we're going to get another Pokemon Presents where we'll finally learn more about Pokemon Legends Z-A. And so they're probably going to show off the Switch 1 version first, but they might be able to show off a slightly improved version for Switch 2 in that big Switch 2 Direct this April. And some of this may even somewhat explain why Nintendo only showed one game during the Switch 2 reveal, because maybe there are some other games they want to be part of that reveal, like Prime 4, like Legends Z-A, but they want to show off these games a little bit more before they start talking about the Switch 2 versions. So these Switch 2 improvements are exciting to think about, but there is a little bit more that is going on surrounding Legends Z-A, so let's talk about that. The Teraleaker is also apparently suggesting that the starters might not be what we expect for Legends Z-A. So here they say, Pokemon Legends game series started with a random set of old starters. Why would they do something else in the upcoming game and decide to strangely just reuse a past game starter set? We are not safe from making mistakes, that's true, but here it shouldn't really have a lot of info more than the actual bits of placeholder that aren't really true anyway. And so the takeaway here is that the Teraleaker is suggesting that maybe we should not be expecting the Generation 6 starters for Pokemon Legends Z-A, and that it's more likely the case that, similar to how they handled things for Legends Arceus, they used different starters than the initial Generation 4 starters. There has been some debate here. The Teraleaker isn't definitively saying that they've seen evidence to the contrary, but it does look like that they are implying they don't think it will be just the basic starters. However, apparently, Ikaku Legends Z-A will still take place in the Kalos region. Kalos being the region for Generation 6. And so, unlike Legends Arceus that had the Hisui region, which was Sinnoh in the past, it doesn't seem like the name will be changing here. And this does tie into some speculation that where Legends Z-A takes place is actually more close to modern times, and so if that's the case, the idea of the region having a different name doesn't make as much sense because it's not so far off into the past. And if that's also the case, the times surrounding Legends Z-A aren't too different from what took place in X and Y, then maybe the starters are just going to be the same. It's hard to say for sure, but it's certainly something to think about. Now, here's some more apparent leaked details for Legends Z-A. As the clips here says, Legends Z-A leaked info subject to change, but knowing Game Freak it's unlikely. Pokédex starts with Chespin and ends with Volcanion. No Wonder Trading available. No battle points of any sort available. All Pokeball available in Scarlet and Violet can be obtained or transferred in ZA. So first, this is info from a game that's currently in development, so yes, it is still subject to change. But when talking about the Pokédex still being just Chespin to Volcanion, that's the same Pokédex as X and Y, so there may not be much changes there, of course, again, subject to change. But what I find more interesting is this talk of there being no Wonder Trading and no battle points. This may imply that the multiplayer features of Legends Z-A are not going to be the same as some of the other mainline Pokemon games, which should be expected because Legends Arceus didn't have any multiplayer. But it doesn't confirm that there won't be any multiplayer in Legends Z-A, so that part remains to be seen. I'm personally hoping that there is some. Being able to take my team from Legends Z-A and battling my friends would be appreciated, and if there's a way to do it online, even better. Now, within the code, apparently battle forms have also been seen, which seems to suggest that both Miraidon and Koraidon are going to be making a comeback, and so that's interesting, I suppose. Will we be able to ride them as well? We shall see. Now, we also have a list of apparently some Pokemon with different forms that are coming into Legends Z-A. You have Galarian, Yamask, Runerigus, Alcremie in all its forms, Basculin, Basculegion, Stantler, Weirdeer, Pawniard, Bisharp, King Gambit, Gimmighoul, Goldenego, Mankey, Primeape, Annihilate, Quillfish, Overquill, Rotom forms Keldeo, and its form. So, okay, more Pokemon there. And there's even some speculation we may get a bit of a better understanding of Melmetal and Meltan in this game as well, from the different things we are seeing. There's a lot that's subject to interpretation here. We're not entirely sure how this is all going to come together, but the point is, we're learning more about Legends Z-A. I'll be keeping up to date with these different things, and the big one is, to me, is that there may be a Switch 2 version for this game, and that has me very excited. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.